did you feel that DeepSeek was a Sputnik moment? Because it's just, this past 1 or 2 weeks has been such a revelation for all of us. We saw Xi Jinping in the symposium with the tech titans. Do we need to reconsider the case then for Baidu, Ali, and Tencent?
Yeah, look, I thought China tech was just way oversold to begin with. As we, as went the fall, into earlier this year, I can tell you, being here in October, it was anything but China. You couldn't even bring up China in a meeting, China tech. They throw you out of the meeting. Today, oh, Baba, what do you think valuation would be? I do. What is Tencent? The point is, like, now it's an awakening moment. That's why I think DeepSeek, I just think the narrative is more, okay, DeepSeek, the reality is a shot across the bow, and it shows China tech in terms of what we see with AI revolution. They are going to be a big player, and it's my view, like, Baba continues to be the best player. I think it's 500 billion is sort of base case valuation for Baba, but then it goes back to, it's not they're winners, they're losers. It's my view, as this global AI story plays out, that's what's going to make it so transformational. And also it goes back to, like, I think Trump plays ball, and I think Beijing does too, in terms of overall, like, a deal at one point getting done next 6-9 months.
So the sports analogy here, this is kind of like the Super Bowl, right? All to play for, both sides are trash talking. We know that, but they also understand that the game and the stakes are big enough that it has to be win-win at the end of the day.
Exactly. I mean, that, and it's one, like, they're both in the Super Bowl, right? There's many that are watching from their couch. I do think, like, when you look at the technology, what's happening, look, China clearly behind U.S., export controls, but my view is, like, multiple expansion continues to increase on China tech. And I think the big narrative from this call, when you look at Nvidia, is like, okay, you're going to have winners in terms of the AI revolution in US, but DeepSeek is not some moment that's going to take down US tech ecosystem.
It's going to be good for everybody?
It's going to be good. And then the whole point there is, like, okay, US-China cold tech war, what's the view there? How does this, like, ruin the party, right? But my view is that despite all of the headlines and the export controls and everything else, being in DC a few weeks ago, being in Asia for the last 2+ weeks, there's a view that there's a thawing. Like, it's like, I do believe in this game of poker that eventually some deal, and it's a lot better than expected.
Dan Ives publicly rejects recent data that hints at a potential peak in Nvidia's growth trajectory, even as the company continues to dominate headlines. Tech analyst Gil Luria from D.A. Davidson sparks conversation with his latest assertion. Nvidia's stellar ascent may be slowing. Giants like Microsoft, Meta Platforms, and Amazon, huge patrons of Nvidia's technology, could be pulling back after years of robust investment. The question echoing across trading floors and boardrooms alike, has Nvidia truly hit its growth ceiling? Welcome back, everyone, to Investocracy.
And for China, it wasn't just DeepSeek, which rocked the boat about a month ago, right? It was also Xi Jinping gathering old Jack Ma, embracing the guy. It's like Jack is back, and here's the seal of approval. Private sector, it's safe to come out again. I mean, this was like the Pope walking into the room,
Well, that's
right?
exactly. Because you couldn't, no matter where you were globally, New York, Singapore, Australia, you couldn't invest in China tech. Sunday morning, you don't know what you're waking up to. What's going to happen now to big tech in China? Now you feel like, okay, regulatory is a little calmer. And then also at the time, like, there's a view, like, does Trump get a deal done at one point in China? Because in this arms race, where it all plays out, see, my view is, like, if you have anything less than draconian, I think you actually have U.S. tech that moves much higher, as well as China tech.
Yeah. So listen, you brought up an interesting phrase there, arms race. I mean, that's really what it is, right? The war, it's a tech war, but it is still a war, right? I mean, it can be potentially win-win for both sides, right? What about national security concerns?
But there's going to be, look, there will be, it starts off with, let's say, TikTok. That'll be the first chip on the table, okay? But ultimately, it's like, there's going to be, obviously, a lot of involvement in terms of oversight, agreements, IP, how this is all going to work. The reality is, U.S. needs China, China needs U.S. It's just, you could talk many ways, but in terms of chips and in terms of U.S. tech infrastructure, from Nvidia to Apple to Tesla to Microsoft, I think in negotiation is ultimately, it's going to be a balancing act, but I believe you get to a much better place 6-9 months from now, which is why I believe like tech being oversold on like fears and tech. Look, Trump, it all goes back to like the headline risk is there, but it's trying to see through what that ultimately means, especially when it comes to China.
According to Luria, while Nvidia's strategy execution is flawless, with fiscal 2025 revenues soaring to $130.5 billion, the anticipation of continual exponential growth might need a reality check. With a heavy reliance on Titanic customers like Microsoft, Meta, and Amazon, constituting a third of its revenue, Nvidia confronts a potential saturation point in AI chip demand. It's the classic supply versus demand tale told anew, with companies scrutinizing their returns on investment. But before going on with the video, are you into cryptocurrency? If so, check out our second channel, Investocracy Crypto. We bring you breaking news, expert analysis, and the latest trends in the fast-moving world of digital assets. Whether you're a seasoned crypto investor or just curious about the future of finance, we've got something for you. Click the link in the description to subscribe to Investocracy Crypto now. Don't miss out and stay ahead of the game. Now, let's get back to the video.
Let's begin with Nvidia's quarterly beat. AI chips fueling a 78% jump in revenue. Current quarter sales guidance also above consensus. Jensen Huang calling demand for Blackwell, quote, amazing. Take a listen to what he told John Fort last night.
Feelings about Blackwell is better today than it was last quarter. And the reason for that is because we, of course, ramped up into production. We exceeded our target. And the teams did an amazing job. As you recall, we had a hiccup in our design flaw in Blackwell that we found early on last quarter or quarter before that. And we recovered tremendously well, and I'm very proud of the team for that. And so for those reasons, I feel pretty great from an execution perspective.
A lot of desk notes on it today. Jim Goldman says, quote, good enough.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Rice we were going back and forth this morning, and you could just say, look, it was a quarter, frankly, where it's a GPU business, and the GPU's number were beaten. I think that one of the difficulties of understanding it was the whole China stuff. You can get involved in the weeds with China. What matters is that the Chinese initiative is child's play. DeepSeek can't do it. I think everyone has to start thinking what Blackwell does. Is it reasons? So if you go on to ChatGPT right now and you say, is Walgreens going to get a bid from Rob Sweeney at Sycamore? It would say Sycamore is a company that does retail. Rob Sweeney used to work at Goldman Sachs. Walgreens is run by Tim Wentworth. And you'd be like, well, that's particularly worthless. Well, what he's talking about is it's going to be reasoning. It's going to say that's a possibility. It might happen. The balance sheet is not that good.
It might do what I do.
Oh,
so
my God.
Yes.
Your
could
name is...
I'm completely replaced.
Right. Mr. Blackwell,
Mostly
how are
dead.
you?
Actually, now today it's alive.
On the one hand,
now
Jim.
they may split it into three once they actually are succeeding in buying it, although it's a few weeks away. I'm not talking about Walgreens right now. Let's get back to NVIDIA.
Well, I'm just saying, okay, that it's maybe John did a great job, and it's really important to try to figure out what happened with the narrative. When I speak with the company, the narrative was, frankly, they were shocked that China DeepSeek would have played any role, given the fact that all the big hyperscalers had placed all these orders. They all knew about DeepSeek. They're much more into another world, a post-train world. They're literally in a world where they want to have a robot. A robot comes into a warehouse, and the robot looks at the warehouse and says, you know what, I got to put this on a truck. I have to go around this corner. I have to lift it up. I got to be very careful. I don't want to damage the box. Whereas right now the robot says, tell me what to do. The next robot says, okay, here's how I'm going to do it. And that's where we are. And that takes it to a whole different level of compute.
Nvidia also faces the delicate tango of profit margins. The company's relentless innovation sees new GPU models, like the forthcoming Blackwell, keeping profits yo-yoing between boom and moderation, often settling around 71% due to costs. Despite these market tremors, Luria, while not a doomsayer, advises cautious optimism with a neutral stance. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
Remember, they're both accelerated computing and generative AI. The compute is so fast that they can actually do things. Right now, Jensen's famously saying it's so slow. I mean, to us it's fast, but it's a parlor game to him. And this is something that's industrial, and will replace all of every bit of computing we have right now.
Meantime, as they move past this, I think they called it a hiccup regarding Blackwell.
Right.
Once it rolls, though, Jim, is this margin guidance into the mid-70s?
71.
It's good enough?
I think that it'll be even better than that. You know, if you go back, one of the ways to look at, and this is one of the things Jensen told me, if you go back to last year at this time, this week, and you looked at what the stock traded at on forward earnings, it traded 19 times earnings. The stock always looks expensive, and then when we get there, the stock turns out to be very cheap. So I could argue if this stock, you give it a high, you can put a higher multiple and you get to 150, 160. But David, one of the problems is the number of ETFs.
On that point, by the way, on the valuation point, no, don't be worried. I'm just going to interject here.
Don't hurt me.
I mean, Citi, I would never hurt you, Jim. 163 price target at Citi, for example, is 23 times calendar year 26.
That's very wise person. That's exactly what I'm saying. If you looked at it last year, you would realize, holy cow, this stock turned out to be very cheap. Now, this is with a hiccup. This is not, this is not a smooth thing.
Despite a deceleration in its rocket-fast growth, the core strength and strategic foresight that NVIDIA embodies remain unshaken. With a marketplace built on innovation and resilience, NVIDIA's current valuation marks an intriguing entry point amidst global tech shifts. But what do you think? Share your thoughts. Finally, if you would like to know what companies like NVIDIA have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.